Hey, and welcome back to the Difference Maker Revolution podcast. And oh my gosh, Jonathan, are you missing our fancy studio where the last two episodes were recorded?
Yes, I most certainly am. And I'm missing the rest of our wonderful team. It's only the two of us this week. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like Brad's going on vacation and Janine has a crazy busy day today and Steve's on his way back from a week-long workshop. So yeah, it's just you and I, the last two standing this week, eh? So Jonathan, we're going to talk about defining your own success, because this is something that we talk about a lot and sometimes people wonder, what do we actually mean by that? So for you, Jonathan, what does defining your own success actually mean for a photographer?
Well, I think that, there's so much pressure on people in general they feel like they have to live up to something, or they have to be a certain person or achieve certain things to be deemed to be worthy or accepted by their peers or their friends or their family. And a lot of the times in the education space, not just in the photography industry, but in every industry, the educator will set a standard for that you're not successful until you've achieved XYZ. So to give you an example, it might be in the photographic industry, you're not successful because your average sale is below $5,000. Or, oh my God, you haven't had a 10K sale yet, you're not successful, or you're not as good as me. Or, oh my God, you don't have a studio with staff, you don't run a real business. Or, they're setting this standard of success that in their minds they think that's success, but that's not true for everyone. And I think one of the core values we've adopted is this idea that you define your success, because what I believe to be successful doesn't mean that, my version of successful could be your version of hell. You might hate my version of successful and vice versa. So, for example, we have members who, are pushing for $1 million a year studio. They have teams of staff, 4 or 5 staff. Their challenges are training staff, managing staff. There's different things they have to do, different skills they have to acquire. But for someone who just wants to, earn a couple of $100,000 revenue and work from their home studio and maybe have a part-time staff because they don't want to manage people, that's equally okay. We're not saying that one is better than the other. And that's, I think, what we mean by defining your own success. If you want to earn an extra $2,000 a month, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month by pursuing your passion, or if you want to build a photography empire, each of those is unique to you. And when you achieve that, that's success for you. And you shouldn't be worried about what other people think just because you're not living their version of success. Did I make sense there, or did I ramble?
No, well, you're Irish, so you ramble, of course, but you made perfect sense too to me anyway. But I think that, we think about success and we think about it often. For me, success has been happy. And often striving for something makes us unhappy, which is the opposite of what success is actually about. So it's a real interesting thing to balance. But I think the important thing, as you just said, Jonathan, is that happiness is different for everybody. There's people who feel they can't be happy unless I become a multi-billionaire. And there's people, what makes them happy is not having a job that stresses them out completely so that they can spend more time with their family or to look after an elderly relative or wherever that might be. So whatever makes you happy, whatever gives you fulfillment, that's really what success is. And there's many different ways to your definition of success. So one of the things I see a lot of photographers talk about, Jonathan, about, when you actually sit down and say, so why do you want to work for yourself? And they will say freedom of my time, right? That I'm not on the clock for anybody. I don't have to be there at a certain time. You know, I can work around my schedule, whether that's looking after family or an elderly relative or whatever else. There's a lot of photographers who that's their key motivator. But then there are photographers who see this as an opportunity to multi-scale a business, you know, and not even stop at one studio, but go to 20 studios and have one in every city. And that's fine. But the key thing that we talk about, Jonathan, is that none of those is better than the other. And I think that's the key one, that we shouldn't ever try and say, you're not successful unless you've done this, whether that's on an average sales value, as you said, or it's on, you know, you have a studio that's a retail studio rather than a home studio. None of that matters to anybody except you as the photographer, as to what do you want your life to be about? Who do you want to serve? Outcomes do you want from that? And that's a difficult process, Jonathan, like to even just figure out. So, okay, I know what I want, but what does that actually mean from a business perspective? We see that all the time, right?
Yeah, and different, you know, strategies and tactics will get you to your version of success. And, you know, we're not saying that it's not possible. If you really want to, if you're that highly driven eagle and you really want to build, you know, a 3 million a year studio, 5 million, 20 million a year studio with, you know, 10, 20, 30 staff members, great. You know, we're going to encourage that. We're going to help you to do that. But equally, if you want to have a revenue of 60, 70, 80, $100,000 a year and work from home, or, you know, work from a smaller studio and just work with yourself or with your partner, that's also equally fine. And, you know, that just because you want that doesn't mean you're any less capable than someone who wants the 3, 5, 10 million studio. Just have different desires and different goals, and there's different challenges to achieve both of those things. You know, so, you know, when you're looking to scale, you're obviously looking to add team members, and you know from running businesses with 30 plus people how challenging it can be to hire people, to find the right people, to train them, to quality control everything and make sure that, you know, people are actually doing the job as they're supposed to, and then managing, you know, people are people, you know, managing the roller coaster of life and helping them through that. And, you know, that's a completely different challenge than when you're working on by yourself and you don't have to worry about that. And I think it's important that, you know, a lot of people focus on revenue too. And, you know, you always say turnover or revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and you added cash flow is reality to that famous saying, I believe. And, you know, so many people talk about sales and their average sale and their revenue. Show me your bottom line. That's what I really want to see. Show me your cash reserves. What happens if a tsunami hits and, you know, SH1T hits the fan? Will you be able to survive, you know, chaos with a good cash reserve? You know, so a lot of the industry, and this is not just the photographic industry, this is every industry, we're just like drawn into this whole, oh my God, my sale is this, oh my God, my turnover is this, how awesome am I? And I know people who have a revenue of $100,000 a year and make more profit than a business that has revenue of $1 million a year. You know, so that links back into the skills and the processes and the procedures and the challenges you have depending on what your type of business you're trying to build.
And Jonathan, often, like, if we know what we want out of life and we know what that is, then the next piece is, so what business do I need to get to deliver me that life? You know, so if my goal is that I just want to earn enough for my photography business to bring the family on a holiday a year, or, you know, I want to earn net of tax 30,000 for my business, or 50,000 or 100,000, what does that actually turn into a business. And I spend a lot of time helping our members to figure out what they want, what that plan is and what they want, and then putting a figure on that, and then trying to translate that into a business. And 99 times out of 100, the photographer doesn't understand how those numbers break down. You know, I've talked to photographers where they say, oh no, Ronan, all I want is, you know, 2,000 a month, so that's 24,000. So if I do 30,000 worth of revenue, you know, I'll have it, you know. And it doesn't work that way. And when I sit down and say, no, well, based on business best practice, to pay yourself that, you need a business of this size. And they go, really? I go, yeah, really. That's how it breaks down in best practice. And, you know, I had this conversation this week, and a member told me, no, my goal now, Ronan, is I want 500,000 turnover, so I pay myself 250,000 a year. And I went, that ain't going to happen. And he went, what do you mean? And I said, it doesn't work that way. Based on what's your cost of goods percentage? And we worked through it, you know, and the owner's pay element was 140,000, right, net of tax for a business of that size. So it's really interesting about, not only do we need to understand the life we want to create for ourselves, but then we got to progress to, so what do I need to earn from my business? What does my business need to pay me to give me that life? And then I can turn that into, so, you know, what does the business need to turn over to give me that life? And, you know, it's interesting just to see when someone figures that out. Sometimes it's frightening for people, but it's better to know it than think that you're going to create this. And then you get frustrated with yourself because you know, you're doing what you think it was, but what you expected isn't happening. You know, and it's a real balance for me, in terms of, I much prefer to know, well, if that's what I want, what do I need to create to give me that life? You know, not just from the money point of view, but like the life that I want in total. What does that translate into? And there's a famous saying, Jonathan, I can't remember who said it, but enjoy the journey, because it's not the destination that will give you your satisfaction. So you know, even when you know, you can't, if you're constantly putting yourself under pressure to reach your success goal and not enjoying that journey, well, then you're not going to be satisfied when you reach it either.
Yeah, you're always chasing the gap and not celebrating the gain, and that's a amazing book that last year you read and our members have read and spoke about, and, you know, other people have read and spoke about in the group. And that's actually an interesting point, because it brings me back to, it resonates in my own personal story. And, you know, I always believed, when I set up my affiliate business, I always believed I wanted more money, and more money was always the solution. I just needed more money, more money, more money. And after 2 years of failure, when I finally became an overnight success, yes, I'm making bunny ear rabbits with my fingers, because it took 2 years of failing to become an overnight success. But anyway, when I actually had the money and I was making a load of money, I didn't feel any better. You know, that was the end result. And I realized that it's not about the end outcome, like you just said. It's about loving the journey. And when you figure out what you really want, what I really wanted was just freedom of time and movement, to be able to do the things I loved from any location I wanted to do it from, and that I needed only X amount to be able to do that. That's what was important, rather than having the money, right? And the process of getting that money was too stressful. It was like affiliate marketing is like day trading. You're spending, you know, I spent, as we said before, up to $24,000 of my own money in a single day running ads. And if they didn't buy, you know, that money was bye-bye. So it was very stressful. It was like day trading or trading stocks. And for me, that wasn't worth it, and it wasn't fulfilling. Whereas what we do now with helping people to improve their business, helping people to make a difference in their clients' lives, that's incredibly fulfilling. Seeing other people succeed as a result of your input, not as a result of your input, but with your help, because they're doing the work, of course. And it comes back to, I'm going to share a story. So in Tampa, Janine and her family and her daughter Erin and Tim introduced us to the game of Risk, right? And we became obsessed with Risk. And then Brad found a mobile app for the game of Risk. So I started playing that game then, and then you started playing that game. But one thing I noticed about myself when I'm being self-aware when I'm playing that game, the most fun I'm having when playing the game of Risk on my phone is at the beginning, up until I figure out how to win the game. When I've won the game, it's the worst feeling ever, because the journey is finished and I have to start again to get that thrill. So that's one thing I'm very aware of, is noticing what's actually the fun part. And the fun part, like you said, is the journey, is figuring out, is the implementation, is the execution. And when you learn to love that journey and that implementation, and you derive incredible joy and happiness from doing, with the end goal automatically happening in the background, that's when you'll thrive, because you'll just love what you do. And I think that's what we do. You know, yes, there's challenges, yes, there's frustrations, yes, there's pains in the bum, but overall we absolutely love what we do every day, and that's what gives us our happiness, and the result is a successful business.
Yeah, and it reminds me, Jonathan, of that quote from Winston Churchill, who I've always been a big fan of, which might be unusual for an Irishman. But anyway, we won't go into the politics of it. But like, he has this quote, and like when I analysed this quote, I went, it's so true. And it starts with, success is not final. You know, and when I read this quote, even though it connected with me, I didn't know why. And then I realised that when you deliver on whatever success you define your success to be, no matter what that is, when you get there, often you want to go to the next step. You don't have to, right? But often things might change that you do want to take a different step of some kind, right? So that's what success is not final is means. But he also then talks about failure is not fatal. And this is a hard one to do. And even our good friend Mary Fitz-Taylor talks about this all the time, about failing forward. You know, that when you're on whatever journey that is, you have to know that no matter what it is, there's likely to be failures along the way. And you got to make sure that those failures, they're not fatal. They're going to happen. And if you think you can achieve something without failing somehow, somewhere, and you let that absolutely destroy you from a mental point of view and a focus point of view, well then it's probably not the right journey for you. But failure not fatal. And the last one I think is really, really the critical one, which is the courage to continue, right? So success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that matters, right? And when you truly want something, no matter what gets in your way, you'll find a solution to get around it. And that's the courage, right? That's what courage means, that, you know, it's important just to keep going. But it's a bit odd, you know, Jonathan, in that if success is not final and failure is not fatal, and you fail along the way, but you have the courage to continue and you get there, you know, you'll probably want to do something else. And that's, for me, is what you talked about, why it's critical to enjoy the journey. You know, you have to enjoy the journey. If the journey is freaking you out, well then reevaluate what's truly important to you. Because for me, if that's the case, you haven't actually managed yet to define what your success is, which for me is your happiness. What's making you happy?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, you know, it's getting that thrill out of doing. It's getting that thrill out of, you know, and people derive that thrill differently, you know, so it's understanding what's important to you. It's like when we have our discovery calls with our clients, you know, when you're calling your clients, you're trying to discover what really matters to them, why this photographic experience, this transformational photographic experience is so important to them. You know, and it's about figuring out what really matters. And you're trying to do the same for yourself. It's like doing a discovery call on yourself to try and deep dive and figure out what's important to you, so you can define that success. And yeah, just without going too philosophical on the Winston Churchill quote, I mean, you can't have success without failure. They're linked. It's like there cannot be light without dark. Like, they literally describe the opposite of each other. You can't have one without the other. You can't have good without bad. You know, they would not exist. They're not independent things. You know, you have to fail to succeed. Because if you don't know what failure is, you can't define success. If you don't know what success is, you can't define failure. They're codependent. They exist together. It's like light and dark. You know, you can't have day without night. So, without going down that rabbit hole of philosophy there, yeah, that's just an illustration. But coming back to defining your own success, I think as well that it's important that when you define your success, that you take action towards that success and that you believe in yourself. You know, most of us get in our own way because we feel we're not good enough. And I think that one of the ways to help you overcome that is by realizing that it's not about you. So when you make it about your client and what's best for your client, that automatically gives you more confidence, and it takes some pressure off, because it's not about you being good enough, it's about you helping your clients achieve something. So a lot of people don't take action because they're afraid, and a lot of the reasons is because they don't believe they're good enough, or they're not confident enough, or you know, they feel like they're not ready. And you'll never be ready. You just got to do it. And you learn by, as Brad said, Brad talks about exposure all the time. Exposing yourself to doing something. And we had this conversation with a client this week who, for his business, he's starting to make some of the phone calls. And, you know, it's out of his comfort zone. And they're scary for him. And he's afraid of messing up on them. And, you know, he's been listening to someone else help him with them. And, you know, I said to them, the only way you're ever going to do it is by doing it and effing up. You know, F shit up. Oh, I used 2 curse words there, sorry. Sorry, podcast people. But yeah, that's the only way you can get better, is by actually doing it. Just take action on it.
Yeah, and it's important when you do have those failures that you don't start to blame yourself, you know. But you're right, Jonathan, making it about the client and not making it about you. Because when you do let that get on top of you, it's you're self-focused on you rather than your client. And I had a call this week, a mentor call with a client too, and they were talking through, they feel under pressure about where their average sale is, you know, and she said she feels so under pressure about where her average sale is, and she thinks that other photographers are judging her, that even when she's photographing the client, she's thinking about, will they spend money with me? Now, if that's what you're thinking about, you're making it about you, well, then there's no way you're delivering a transformational experience for your client. You can't be. You know, and we talked about this, and I said, imagine the only people I know in the world who can pretend to be what they're not are great actors. But they will tell you that even to become that person, they often have to live that life for a while to get into even being able to pretend to be someone else, you know. So there's no way any of us, right, can be worried about that sort of thing and making it about us and deliver an amazing experience for our clients. And making that transition that it's not about us, it's about delivering something for our client, actually takes pressure off us. And,
you know, along with that, like, you know, Steve says all the time too about how we often put ourselves, as photographers, we put ourselves in the way of allowing clients to actually invest. And as Steve said, it's not up to us to decide what our clients invest with us. Yes, we have to open our pricing aperture to allow them to invest. Yes, we have to, you know, deliver an amazing experience throughout, from the marketing right through to when they come back over and over again. And yes, we have to have the proper, tactics and processes and procedures to deliver the experience, but your clients are spending money on themselves. They're not spending money on you. So you got to get out of your own way. If they want to spend that money on themselves, let them spend that money on themselves. It's not up to you to decide what they spend their money on.
And that links to, it's not up to others to tell us what our success should be. All those things are linked. They're literally just the same principle, just applied with a slightly different lens. That's all it is. But it's hard. As humans, we seem to be. I think it's because we're social beings. We're wired that we want recognition from others, but then we get voices talking to in our heads about, what other people are actually saying, which often isn't true at all. So just figure out what life you want, then figure out what business you need to create to deliver you that life, and then make your business about your client, not you, and everything will work out fine.
Absolutely. I think I'm all out of stories for this one. I could go on and on, but we don't want to go down rabbit holes.
No,
two Irishmen talking, we could be here hours.
The style of our podcast, Jonathan, is that, we're in an Irish pub in a snug, which is a little area at the back of the pub, and we're great friends just chatting, right? And normally there's 4 or 5 of us, but today there's just 2 of us. But we've had a good chat. I think it's an important lesson for everybody. So, Jonathan, if somebody out there says, well, I'd like to know more about this, right? I'd like to know more about how you can help me, create the success that I want for myself and my business. What should they do?
Great question. So what you should do is go to www.thedifferencemakerrevolution.com/starter, STARTER. And that will take you to a page where you can create a free membership account to watch the Difference Maker starter level training. And don't let the name fool you. Yes, it's free. Yes, it's called Starter, and it's got nothing to do with where you're at in business. It's an introduction to the Difference Maker operating system, the Difference Maker philosophy that's so different than anything else you hear out there in the photographic industry. So when you sign up for Difference Maker Starter, you'll begin to understand the operating system of Great Clients Are Made Not Found. You'll get an overview of the 10 stages of delivering a transformational experience for your clients and what transformation actually means. You'll get insight into having conversations with your clients and understanding what's really important to your clients. You will understand how to make your photography more desirable to your clients and make it more about what they want. And it's an amazing course, and people who have trained with the Difference Maker Revolution for years are saying, wow, I can't believe this is free. I'm learning so much, even though I've trained with you guys before. This is a great reminder. Incredible. So go to thedifferencemakerrevolution.com/starter, sign up today, do the training, and it will change your life.
Alrighty, so there you are. You've heard it. Go to thedifferencemakerrevolution.com/starter, and we look forward to seeing you in the training on our weekly calls that are also free. And you might be saying, why is it free? It's free because it's a revolution. And as Brad would say, you can't put a paywall around a revolution. So we'll see you then. That's it from us this week. Bye for now.
See you later.